guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be going over all the books I've read in the month of July. You might see Joey popping in and out. I decided to film by my nightstand because it is filled with books, and then for aesthetically pleasing purposes I put some books at the top. And then I also have some more books in my closet right over there. But these are all the ones that I want to read eventually at some point. So anyways, I'm going to get into it. I had already filmed this video once and I didn't like how it turned out. I was standing up and I was really out of breath and the lighting was a little bit off. I don't want to film anymore, so this is the final take. But anyways, I read 6 books for the month of July. And some of it was audio, so it's not all me just actually having time to read. I just started getting back on the reading train again, so that is super nice. I feel like I have a little bit more time now. Not necessarily, I'm just actually making time for it. So next stop is trying to focus more so on my health, on making time for it. You came here for books, not for what I want to eventually hopefully do. So if I don't have the book, I'll put a picture of it somewhere on the screen, hopefully over here, so it looks like I'm doing it right. But the first one I started off with was called Night Country by Melissa Albert. Now this is, I think I have it, yeah. This book is a second book in its series called The Hazelwood, which I do have the first one. My friend is just borrowing it. The first book was good. It is very dark, twist on fairy tales, and I think that's why I liked it, because it was just more of a, it was a twist on your traditional play of fairy tales and a different take on them. And this book, I actually didn't know that there was a second one of the first one, and I was still reading the first one. Something had happened to one of the characters, and when I read the back of this book, it kind of spoiled something. So don't read this one if you haven't read Hazelwood, or if you're like in the middle of reading it. Yeah. But this one is very good. I personally liked it better than the first one. The characters seem way more developed. You get to know a little bit more about all of the characters versus just Alice, which I really like. And you get to just understand a little bit more behind what, oh gosh, what is it called? You get to know more about the hinterland, which is this fairy tale realm. And it's just very dark as well too. Gruesome in some ways, not too gruesome for some people. I'm a baby. So for me, I was kind of like, oh, okay. But anyways, highly recommend this one. It is very, very good. Okay, so the second book, I'm like looking at Goodreads right now. So go ahead and add me as a friend on Goodreads. I think I downloaded Storygraph, which someone also recommended. Haven't looked at it yet, but on my list to do. Okay, next one. I haven't, did I get it to my friend too? I did. I gave it to my friend. I read Looking for Alaska by John Green, and that was a very good book. I did not expect it to be as deep as it was. They actually made a TV show about it, and I watched the first 2 episodes while I was reading it, and then I stopped watching because I wanted to make sure that like I didn't get distorted by the TV show versus the book. The TV show is actually very well produced too, so I want to keep finishing that. But the book, you kind of just get to, I related to the character, to the main character. It was just more like a bystander. If I was invited, cool, you know, like I wasn't the main person that everyone wanted to be around. And seeing him trying like navigate through friendships and being like, oh, I actually do have friends, this is kind of cool, and I don't know, and seeing like the high school love, their take on it, it was definitely very cool. The ending was very deep. I was on a plane ride to Seattle when I finished this book, and I was trying to not cry because I didn't want to seem like a wimp or a baby to the person next to me while reading a book. But it was very emotional. It made me think about life and our friends and how you just need to make sure that you tell everyone that you care for them. So it was an unexpectedly deep book. Next one I read was On the Way Back from Seattle. It was called The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. I also let my friend borrow this same book. I read half of it on the plane ride, and then the other half I stayed up till like 2 a.m. reading because it was just so good. It was just like constant page turner. I just loved the imagery of it, and it just like, who comes up with these plot lines? Like, who comes up with the story, you know? I feel like it sounded very familiar, and I don't know if I've heard it somewhere or if I have read it before, which I doubt. But it was a very good book. The ending was, I feel like, left me on a cliffhanger. Let me like see if it tells like what this book is about. Oh, I didn't read this book yet. Okay, I'm going to read just a little synopsis of it because I don't know how else to explain it. But it says, Nobody Owens, but he's known to his friends as Bod, is a perfectly normal boy. Well, he would be perfectly normal if he didn't live in a graveyard, being raised and educated by ghosts, with a solitary guardian who belongs to neither the world of the living nor the world of the dead. Okay, let's see. There are dangers and adventures for Bod in the graveyard, and eventually we find out that there is a man named Jack that already killed Bod's family, and is just waiting to kill Bod. And so like, if he leaves the graveyard, he's essentially putting himself at risk for this. And it's just like, it's just a little boy that wants to grow up and like explore, but he can't because he experiences that darkness, and you just kind of see him grow up, and it's just very like mind-boggling to me that the author was able to like put years of a life within a book. What I read, which I actually read, was 13 by Steve Cavanagh. This is, if you can't read it here, it says, the serial killer isn't on trial, he's in the jury, which I thought was freaking nuts. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had to read this. And oh my gosh, it does not disappoint. Again, page turner, you just don't want to put it down. I finished it within a few days, given, again, I say I have time to read, and I'm not as fast as I used to be, but the author just, there's something about how he writes that makes you feel like you know the character, but you don't. And he gives little glimpses of it into the character's life, and you're just like, oh, but I want to know that. Tell me more about this, because I feel like that would help me know about this outcome more. And it's just little pieces of stuff like about the characters. He goes back and forth between the main character's point of view and then the serial killer's point of view. And normally I find it hard to differentiate between the two. Sometimes with the books that do that, I'm like, okay, wait, what was I reading again? Whose point of view is this? But it was very easy to understand whose point of view it was. Maybe it's because it was lawyer and a serial killer. Okay, but they, again, I don't know. Very intriguing, mind-blowing ending, just so many twists and turns, and I could not put this down. And I was just like, this author is amazing. Like, the amount of it, like, it was like I was watching a movie in my head. And not many of these books, I mean, the Graveyard Book, yes, like, okay, so all these so far have been really good about being like this TV show or movie inside my head. But this one, it was just like a police show at work, like with the lawyer. The lawyer used to be like a con artist and some like guy with some past, and he's going up against a serial killer that's in the trial. Oh, so good. So I had to look up, or when I went to go review it on Goodreads, it said that this was book number 4 out of 6 for the lawyer. So I was like, the heck? There's more of these. I immediately went and tried to like borrow on like my library's app for the first one, and I forgot that I placed it on hold, and then I bought the book on Amazon, and then as soon as the book shipped on Amazon, I got a notification saying, hey, your audiobook is ready to be rented. And I was like, okay, so now I'll have the book eventually. But I'm listening to the first book on audiobook right now, and even then, it's called The Defense. Same author, Steve Cavanagh, and still somehow the audio is just so good. The imagery, you just portray this movie inside your head, like this TV show is just constant. You feel like you're there, and that's what I love about his books. So I'm already starting to really like this author. Very good books. Okay, next one. I have 2 more. I have Claire and the Sun. That one I listened to on audiobook. It was interesting. I did like it. It was a really good book. I gave it, I gave it a 4 stars out of 5 stars on Goodreads. And I think the main reason is just the ending really fell flat for me. It was just the most, maybe spoilers, I don't know. So you read it or you listen to it and you tell me if you think it's how the ending is. I thought it was the most uneventful, bland ending ever. They could have gone so many different directions with that book and the ending, and to me it just fell really flat and just very rushed to end the book. Like, were they on a deadline? They just didn't feel like writing anymore, so they're like, okay, we're just gonna be done. About Claire and the Sun, I thought that this was a different book. Like, I thought I read this book initially, or like listened to it on audiobook, but then I got notifications and I had returned the one I was thinking of, but then I got a notification saying that like my audiobook was ready to be rented. And I was like, I already listened to that, what the heck? I listened to it just to make sure, and no, completely different book. It was very good. At first I was confused as to what was going on. I'll read you maybe a little synopsis of it. Okay, well, it says, the author, KAZUO ISHIGURO, tells the story of Clara, an artificial friend with outstanding observational qualities, who from her place in the store watches carefully the behavior of those who come in to browse, those who pass on the street, and that she remains hopeful that a customer will soon choose her. My neighbors are like trolling around. And then I guess essentially the book is asking the fundamental question, what does it mean to love? And I guess I could see how that was the question at the end, but no, I don't. It fell flat, and to me that was not the point of the book. It was very interesting as an artificial friend. Like, I pretty much thought of it as a doll, and like almost like a teddy bear or a doll, like waiting to be picked up, but it's actually an artificial intelligence that's a friend. These parents buy friends for their kids, so they're not lonely. And I thought that was interesting as well, and I really wanted to know more about the dynamic and the setup of what it was like to be living there. Was it dark and gloomy? Was it dreary? Like, how futuristic is this? That's what I wanted to know, but we didn't get much of that. Okay, last audiobook is called Find Us by Benjamin Stephen, but it is an Audible original, and so count it as a book, don't count it as a book. I counted it as one because Goodreads said it was on there. It said it was a book, so I'm counting it as a book. But it was an interesting read. At first, I didn't know how to handle it. Anything that involves kidnapping kids, I start to get a little on the I think I'm gonna put this down because I can't handle that type of stuff. Especially with having a kid, I can't imagine anyone taking my own daughter. But anyways, the ending of how and why the kids got kidnapped just blew my mind, and it was a huge plot twist. I think you definitely have to get halfway through it in order to appreciate it, and I think it's only a 4 or 5 hour like listen. But without like going too much into detail, it did pick up the end when you start to realize how and why these kids got kidnapped, and the ending was a huge plot twist, and my mind was like and as a mom, I was just like, that's the reaction. I got no words. I was speechless, and I still am speechless. I can't talk about it without spoiling it. Okay, so those are the books I read in July. I'm like, we're in August though. So books I read in July. I hope to be reading a lot more in August. I have 2 audiobooks going, and I started reading one, and I had to give this back in like 6 days, so I had to finish it. It's from my child. It's called The Devonshire Scream, which ironically, I picked this up because it looked a lot very similar to this other book I grabbed. Turns out it's the same author. This one's called One Poison Pie. I haven't finished this yet. I did get a little bit into it. So, on the list to read, on the list to read. I would like to read this one. I have so many books I would like to read. It's a matter of time. So first off, I need to read this one. This one actually has a due date on it, so the priorities. And then hopefully the rest of them will fall into place. Tell me what you guys are reading, what books you guys have liked, what genre do you guys like? Is there an author that you specifically like? I'm really starting to love this author, Steve Cavanagh, and I want to look at the rest of his stuff after I read this series. So anyways, this video is getting a little long about me talking about books, but apparently I can talk about books forever. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Bye.